I'm back with another recording from the document from the Cape Transitional Authority on why the Cape will secede and how it will secede. Guys, I've had a look at the stats of the last couple of videos that I've made, and it is quite clear that people are loath to sit and listen to my boring voice, in other words. But guys, I implore you to bear with me. I implore you to listen to these things, or if you don't want to spend the time listening, you will get through the book much quicker if you go to the link in the description and actually read the document yourself. I'm doing this for the people who either don't have internet access or much data to go onto the internet and stuff like that. I'm trying to help in any way I can. This information is very important, and as boring as it sounds, people need to know this. You know how many people I have come across and met, and when I mention secession, it's, oh yes, we need to secede, we need to get away from what's happening here, we just need to separate ourselves. But once you start getting into it with them, they really don't know what they're talking about. They don't know about the economy of the Western Cape or the Northern Cape. They don't even know what areas are earmarked or marked for secession or anything like that. They don't even know who the ULA is. Guys, this information is extremely important. We've up until now, we've had basically a history lesson on where we come from, how we got to where we are today, and so on. Now we are going to start getting into the economies of the various parts, like the Western Cape, the Northern Cape, and so on. And soon we are going to be getting into some numbers, the actual numbers in rands, billions of rands, that the GDPs of these various areas, and that it might be boring stuff, but it is extremely interesting and is extremely important for you to know this stuff. So bear with me. I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I'm going to start. I've already recorded the bit that I want to share with you today. I recorded this a couple of days ago already. With load shedding and my workload and everything else, I just haven't got around to recording this little intro. So without further ado, please sit back, take the time, get yourself a cup of coffee or whatever. This one's not going to be too long. I'm going to try and break it up into smaller chunks for you to digest easier. So here we go. Chapter 3. The Cape Economy and Infrastructure. Chapter Synopsis. The fundamental aspects of impacting the economic viability of the Cape, when carefully considered, indicates that the Cape can prosper economically should the territory become independent. Focus areas. The content in this section is mainly derived from the comprehensive economic viability study that was completed in 2016 by Jacques du Toit, an economist at Absa Bank from 1985 until his retirement in 2021. For purposes of this analysis, we will focus on the Western and Northern Cape only. The western parts of the Eastern Cape and Free State are not included because these are relatively small areas, and because specific data is not available for current South African provinces. Moreover, the statistics and figures quoted here may seem conservative, but kindly keep in mind that the absolute decay of official agencies in South Africa has resulted in a situation where recent information is either not available or, worse yet, not trustworthy. What's in it for me? This is the sort of question a corrupt politician or CEO would ask when approached to sign off a dodgy tender. But it is a perfectly legitimate question if the persons asking it are ordinary citizens who are pondering the pros and cons of Cape independence. It is legitimate because they have a lot to lose: their jobs, their houses, their cars, the ability to feed, clothe, and the schooling of their children. Or it might be that bond repayments on the house or car or the rent or any other number of other unavoidable expenses. It is very true that most citizens live from paycheck to paycheck, especially those who don't earn enough to save up a little nest egg for an unforeseen emergency or a few small luxuries. It is even worse for unemployed people who have been robbed of the opportunity to work because of an ailing, mismanaged economy and have to make do by scratching a living as best they can. A vitally important question like this deserves a blunt answer. The last thing any sensible Capelander would want is to live in a pauper state which survives only because it can beg, borrow and steal from someone or somewhere else to make its wheels turn. And the short, simple answer can be found in that quotation from James Carville at the head of this chapter. That quote is, let me just look it up here quickly. "It's in the economy, stupid," and that was said by James Carville. Populist politicians and various other financial illiterates believe that they can create jobs. They can't. Except for make-work schemes that achieve nothing in the long run, apart from flinging a temporary morsel of hope to desperate people, or burdening the national finances by needless overstaffing, the civil service and Eskom being glaring examples of this practice. The only way that is a guarantee, if anything, is to build a healthy, constantly expanding economy which can generate more and better jobs for all those who are willing to work. A few years ago, adventurer Rian Mansa was cycling through Africa when he came across a sign while traveling through a Nigerian market which said, "No food for lazy man." He was so impressed that he hung it on the back of his bicycle saddle because it said everything that needed to be said. There is a second question hiding behind the first one. What guarantee do I have that I will still have my job after the Cape gains independence? The answer to that is a peaceful transition, backed by a healthy existing economy which will be the launchpad for the transition. Is this impossible? No. Given suitable negotiations which will profit both sides, for example, an independent Cape would be a natural market for goods and services from the remainder of South Africa and vice versa. This could be accompanied by a sharing of certain facilities and similar cooperative arrangements. It is patently obvious that the two countries will have to have a good measure of cooperation as the only developed or partly developed ones in Southern Africa. It is South Africa's good fortune that in spite of our tangled, often tragic colonial past, there are no ancient deep-seated hatreds of the intensity that tore the former Yugoslavia apart, which included ancient historical ethnic enmities and a clash of religions between Roman Catholic Christians, Eastern Orthodox Christians and Muslims. The events during and after 1994 proved that South Africans were capable of holding a generally orderly and credible election, in spite of the subsequent sporadic political violence between the ANC and IFP, and the fact that many Zulus, inter alia the king, favoured independence. Many foreign observers of the time were convinced that the election process would collapse into civil war. It did not, because the majority of the new electorate displayed a maturity that surprised the doomsayers, the foundation of which was the yearning for peace and a better life rather than war. The Western Cape economy. In 2014, the socio-economic scope indicated that 48.2% of a total of 1,722,133 households in the Western Cape fall into the low-income category with an income of up to 96,000 per annum. 33.8% of households attain an income of 96,001 Rand to 360,000 Rand per annum. 15.5 acquire 360,001 to 1.2 million per annum, and a meager 2.5% achieve 1.2 million and 1 to 2.4 million per annum. Over a period of 10 years from 2005 to 2014, the Western Cape economy showed real growth of about 3.4% per annum, with the average real regional GDP of the province in the order of 371.4 billion over this period. The sectoral composition of the Western Cape economy shows that the financial property and business services sectors were the predominant sectors in 2005 to 2014, with an average share of 25.9% in the province's GDP. It was attributed mainly by large, long-term insurers, asset management companies and media groups based within the province. The manufacturing sector's 2005 to 2014 economic performance of 14.7% was followed by the large and medium retail sector's 14.5% and the transport sector's 9.9%. In terms of foreign trade, the Western Cape exported goods to the value of 109.3 billion in 2014, with food products representing about 40.6% or 44.4 billion rand. A total of 236.2 billion worth of goods were imported via the Western Cape in 2014, consisting principally of mineral products, crude oil for refining purposes, to the value of 138.8 billion rand, 58% of total imports. The importation of machinery and equipment amounted to approximately 19.6 billion in 2014, 8.3% of the total, followed by textile imports valuing 11.8 billion, 5% of the total. The Western Cape has a well-established transport system and infrastructure which promotes and supports economic activity, development and foreign trade. Three prominent ports contribute to this, being Saldanha Bay on the west coast, Cape Town on the peninsula and Mossel Bay on the Cape South Coast. The Saldanha Bay port is particularly attuned to the export of iron ore mined in the Northern Cape and transported by rail to the port, handling 71.8 million tons of cargo in 2015. A steel plant, which used to be a large producer and exporter of various steel products, is located near Saldanha. The Cape Town harbour handled cargo of 16.7 million tons, and the Mossel Bay harbour handled cargo of 2.5 billion tons in 2015. The Cape Town port is the only port in the province that can handle cargo containers, and a total of 888,976 containers, 20-foot equivalent containers, TEU containers, which are also indicative of a ship's cargo carrying capacity, were handled in 2015. In that same year, a total of 2,520 ships entered Cape Town's harbour, followed by Mossel Bay with 1,050 and Saldanha Bay by 618. Although the agricultural sector contributed only about 3.9% to the province's 2005 to 2014 GDP, there is still a robust focus on the grain, wine, fruit and vegetable industry, being linked to prominent export markets which contribute to increased foreign currency income. The Western Cape has significant fish resources, and several prominent fish product processing companies are located in the province, so that approximately 75% of all South African commercial fishing originates along the Western Cape coastline. There are several smaller ports along the Western Cape coast focused on the fishing industry. 13 of these ports must be upgraded over the next few years to promote increased productivity, employment and tourism. Food production, processing and fishery are important agricultural-related industries contributing to increased economic activity and job creation. The energy sector similarly occupies a very important place in the Western Cape economy and is linked to an extensive infrastructure. The Chevron oil refinery, located in Milnerton near Cape Town, has a refining capability of about 100,000 barrels of crude oil per day, hence the high percentage, 58.8%, of the total value of imports in respect of mineral products. Considering the current state of the country's fuel supply, a large percentage of the processed petroleum products could be distributed to other provinces in South Africa, significantly strengthening the interprovincial trade balance if counted as exports. Petro SA's plant, located at Mossel Bay in the Southern Cape, which processes gas into synthetic liquid fuels, boasts a 45,000 barrels per day production capacity. In terms of electricity generation, the Western Cape has South Africa's only nuclear power plant, Kubo, located 30 kilometers north of Cape Town near Melkbosstrand on the west coast. It has 2 generating units that contribute a net of 1,860 megawatts, an average annual production of 13,688 gigawatt hours to the national network. Given the Western Cape's idyllic location, climate and biodiversity, various areas in the province are regarded as sought-after tourist destinations, contributing to additional economic activity and job creation. Foreign tourism, pre-COVID, was a major source of income for the province. The vast majority of international tourists entering South Africa visit the Western Cape. Cape Town, the Garden Route, and the many wine routes prove most popular tourist destinations. The Western Cape historically has the lowest unemployment rate of 19.3% in 2015 of all of the provinces, proving that the Western Cape has already attained a significant level of economic autonomy and sustainability. The Northern Cape economy. The Northern Cape is the largest province in South Africa, surprisingly representing 30.5% of the total surface area of the country. Yet, due to the harsh terrain, it has the lowest population, with an average concentration of only 3 people per square kilometre. Economic activity in this province is limited mainly to the agricultural and mining sectors, with strong growth and renewable energy sector. In terms of 2014 household income distribution, 60% of a total of 324,493 households fall into the low-income category of up to 96,000 per annum. 29.8% of households in the category of 96,001 to 360,000 per annum, 9.1% in the category of 360,001 to 1.2 million per annum, and only 1.1% achieve 1.2 million and 1 to 2.4 million per annum. Between 2005 and 2014, the Northern Cape's economy maintained an average real growth rate of 2.2% per annum, which was lower than the 3% national average over the same period. The average level of real GDP in the Northern Cape was 60.6 billion per annum during the above-mentioned period of 10 years. The sectional composition of the Northern Cape's economy clearly points to the importance of the mining sector, averaging 23.2% of regional GDP in 2005 to 2014, indicating the rich mineral resources of the province. Iron ore, diamonds, manganese, copper, zinc, granite, limestone, lead, plaster, and semi-precious stones are but a few of the mined products of the Northern Cape. A new zinc mine is planned between Springbok and Pofadder, promoting increased employment where the current unemployment rate is greater than 25%. This mine will require new housing projects, further contributing to increased economic activity and additional job creation. The agricultural sector contributed an average of 7.1% to Northern Cape GDP over the period 2005 to 2014 and is the second most important economic activity. Although the Northern Cape is arguably the driest province, two of South Africa's largest rivers, the Orange and the Vaal rivers, flow through the province, irrigating thousands of hectares of agricultural land via direct river irrigation and associated canal system, which service vegetable and vineyard production. Irrigation is also supplied from the Harts, Riet and Modder rivers. In terms of foreign trade, exports from the Northern Cape amount to about 13.4 billion in 2014, consisting mainly of precious metals and gemstones, 7.2 billion rands worth, followed by other mineral products, 3.7 billion worth, and iron ore, limestone and cement, of 3.5 billion. Imports amounted to 3.5 billion in 2014, principally consisting of machinery and equipment amounting to 1.4 billion and the chemical industry providing a value of 853 million. Although the Northern Cape does not have a large port, further development and expansion of Port Nolloth is required to promote trade and exports. Currently, the iron ore mined at Secession and Ch2 is rerouted and transported by rail to Saldanha Bay on the Cape West Coast for export. Tourism is also an important economic activity in the Northern Cape, which boasts many popular destinations such as Kimberley, Uppington and the Kalahari, the various national parks, the West Coast and the Makwaland. Uppington is also a most popular stopover for travellers or tourists travelling to and from these national parks between South Africa and Namibia. The Northern Cape plays an extremely important role in the renewable energy space, where several large solar installations have already been implemented. The second phase of a solar power project near Dar was implemented shortly after the first phase came into effect in August 2014. At the height of this solar project, about 2,000 jobs were created, 90% of these which were provided to the local community. Currently, about 220 people work on the site, with 120 responsible for the maintenance of the solar installation. These workers earn sustainable incomes for a large number of dependents. Upon completion, this project will provide electrical power to 75,000 to 100,000 households. The Northern Cape features prominently in the astronomy field, with several telescopes and related installations at Zuidland aiding mankind's study of the galaxies. These first world facilities are major tourist attractions, further contributing to economic activity and employment. The Northern Cape is home to the future SKA mega project, which is a square kilometre array, located 75 kilometres northwest of Carnarvon. Against the backdrop of the above analysis, the Northern Cape will find it relatively difficult to function economically as an independent state without strong ties to its adjacent, economically stronger, more developed and diversified regions. I think we're going to leave this one right here. In the next recording, we are going to start talking about finances and money, the Cape Fiscus. Please stay tuned for that one.